Well, good afternoon and hello, everyone. My name is Rich Lone, and I'll be your host for today's presentation. Thank you for joining us for another Flycast Partners webinar. Today's webinar is ITOSM, the Future of Digital Infrastructure Management. One of our presenters today is Bobby McCullough, one of Flycast Partners' own, and Bobby will be introducing a couple other special guests a little bit later. But Bobby has had over 20 years in the IT industry. He's ITIL V3 certified and Agile Scrum certified, and has worked with some very, very high-profile organizations such as the United States Post Office and Citigroup. So before we get started and let Bobby take it from here, I want to introduce our organization. Flycast Partners is here to deliver a seriously amazing IT experience. We were founded and staffed by personnel that have many years of experience in the IT space. So we took the best ideas from these collective experiences and added the best components necessary to grow and become a leading value-added reseller in the North American IT market. We offer best-in-class implementation services and training in ITSM, ITAM, ITOM, workload automation, and enterprise service management, all using ITIL best practice. Our professional services can easily scale up or down to meet the IT needs of any customer, regardless of your size, complexity, or budgetary restrictions. We offer implementation services both on-site and remote, as well as training to reinforce your company's long-term IT success. Our ongoing remote administration support service offerings will enable your organization to focus on those normal day-to-day tasks of operations, saving you precious time and money. Now, feel free to reach out to us at any time at 844-FLYCAST. That's 844-359-2278. Or visit us on our website, as you can see before you, at www.flycastpartners.com. This is one of many webinars that we offer here at Flycast Partners, and you can feel free to peruse our webinar tab, take a look at something that might interest you, register, or share it with a coworker. I encourage you to check out data sheets, and we have all kinds of case studies and new tools on there for you to research, and different training offerings and professional services offerings. So peruse our website. If you see something you like, chat with one of our IT specialists down here in the right-hand corner. They're there during normal business hours, Monday through Friday, and they'd be happy to chat with you. I'm going to go ahead and turn this show over to none other than Bobby McCullough. Bobby, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well, Rich. Thanks. How are you?
I'm doing great. It's a little chilly here in Florida with the 55-degree temp, but I'm sure it's a lot colder elsewhere.
It's cold here in Tennessee, but we're getting warmer.
That's good.
So we're everybody on the call today. We're all involved with service management, either as a customer of a service management organization, or IT staff, or a manager. Service management is generally the focus, or the linchpin of any ITIL-based IT organization. The question, though, is it enough? Over the past 20 years or so, most organizations have either migrated to or consolidated on a single service management tool for their organization. And everybody knows that's where the work ends, right? You get your service management tool in, that single tool for your organization, and all your problems are solved. You can handle your tickets and your requests, and there's no more problems. But that's not true. Service desk is reactive. Your customers want something's broken, so they contact you through the tool, and then you go about doing the work. That's not very proactive. So how can you shift left to become truly proactive? Service management is really about two things, service delivery and availability. But the last half of that equation gets lost somehow. Today's organizations want, need, and demand agility from their IT units. But most have multiple monitoring tools and solutions. This leads to inevitable silos and that war room with all its expense, filled with those tenured employees spending their time locked in the room, pointing fingers at each other. That's really more of a shift right than left. Our guests today, we've got a couple of guests from our latest vendor, latest partnership. They're going to show you how this can be a thing of the past. Jordan Schur and Jeff Coleman are located in Denver, Colorado, and combined they have over 30 years experience in this industry. They're going to show you an ITOps platform that we are, quite frankly, we're very, very excited about it. And why are we excited? There's three things I want you to take away. I want you to be sure to look for as he's going through the webinar today. I want you to notice the completeness of the solution, how it truly is a platform by itself. The speed of the implementations when compared to other products. This is not the only ITOps product we're involved with. The implementation time on this is much, much faster than other tools out there. Implementation time is fast. That's also going to mean your time to value happens quicker. That's something the executives and management all have to see. These are the three things that really separate OpsRamp from the competition. So I want you to be sure and pay attention to those things today because you're really going to be amazed. You guys didn't sign up to hear me today, so I want to turn this over to Jeff and Jordan. Guys?
Jordan, are you there?
Yeah, I'm. So let's.
Sorry about that, guys. Were you not unable to hear me? I'll get this thing kicked off.
Okay.
There you go. Okay.
Awesome. Terrific. Modern technology, right? So my name is Jeff Coleman. I'm a solution strategist here at OpsRamp, coming up on 1 year with this organization. But, you know, if you look at my career, I've spent the better part of the last 17 years working for a number of different software vendors in the IT asset, IT service, and IT operations management spaces. And if we rewind previous to that, I managed one of the largest data centers for the largest Dutch bank in the world out of Chicago. And I want to get things kicked off by talking about where things used to be and where things are now. And that's going to hold true for IT service management in addition to IT operations. But on the ops side, really all I was concerned about 20 years ago was what? Racks of servers, spinning disk platters, how much heat was generated, how much power was consumed, sprinkle in a little mainframe, and that's kind of what IT operations was, right? And if you fast forward to today, there's a lot more moving parts involved, right? Now, many organizations support multiple on-prem data centers supported by siloed IT teams and business units. We bring cloud into play, and now we're dealing with cloud service providers, OEM vendors, so a lot of different pieces in play here. And as our enterprises have grown, have matured, and have modernized, that's really led to a situation where, as an organization, we've really become foundational technology collectors. Right? We've had to do so to support the growth of the business. And so I'm sure there's quite a few logos on this screen here that each of you have implemented in your organizations. And that can be really overwhelming for someone in the IT operations space, just to wrap their head around all of this disparate technology that's required to keep the lights on for an organization. Now, when we go beyond that, managing these new hybrid, modern IT environments can be a real challenge as well, right? Because I've got to layer in things like discovery, monitoring, notifications, remote access, patch. There's all of these different disciplines that I'm expected to provide across all of that disparate technology that I've brought in. And so what that's led to is really a time now where, and I hear this time and time again when I talk to organizations, is that we've collected a lot of foundational technology. We've also had to collect a lot of tools to give us that visibility, observability, to give us that window into really the pulse of the business. Again, our little gentleman in the middle here, this can be super overwhelming, right? Because most of these different tools that we've had to bring in, well, they each have their own alert feed. Right? It sets up an environment, and I'm sure many of you on the phone are familiar with this. When there is an outage, we spool up a war room. We get our highest paid individuals on a call. We all pull up our own consoles. We swivel chair one to the next, and we all yell at each other. Right? It's because there's just so much noise and chaos and information overload from all these different tools that we've brought into the organization. And so what we've done here at OpsRamp is we've said, hey, you know, let's create a new, modern SaaS platform that through native capabilities and many, many integrations that we have pre-built can pull all this together into one place, one set of dashboards, one enterprise alert feed, right? Very, very important. And I point out here at the bottom that we're the industry's first and only service-centric AIOps platform. And I think that's important, especially if there's any of you on the phone who are on the service desk side of things. You know, infrastructure tools historically have been very infrastructure focused. Server 1 is down, right? And on the service desk side, many of us have moved past that. We're now at the service from alerting and escalation and availability and SLAs. I want to know that a particular core business application or business service is being affected, and that's something that we are doing here with this platform. Jordan, if you want to bring us a little bit of color in here around Gartner.
Absolutely. So it's this landscape that brings us to an inflection point for artificial intelligence and IT operations, or what's called AIOps. And Gartner has been monitoring the space like a demon in the past year as it's emerged as an ongoing trend. And that's because AIOps is the opportunity to take all of the data that Jeff has reviewed from all those point tools and all that infrastructure and turn it into insights, which will then turn those insights into action. And AIOps is the first opportunity to drive the data to the action entirely through one consolidated solution, and that's where the promise of AIOps lives. Now, for the service desk, you know, that's incredibly valuable because there seems to be a lag, right? There's historically the IT operations team brings the data, brings the monitoring into the equation, and ITSM then is struggling to turn some of those insights into actual and escalate those incidents. So if we move to the next slide, Jeff, you're going to see that actually in terms of AIOps adoption, ITSM and the service desk and improving event-based root cause analysis is one of the more popular use cases. So you're looking at it there. By 2023, 40% of these I&O teams will use AI-augmented automation for efficient, scalable root cause analysis, and that's because there is a need to combine the rigorous monitoring and data collection of ITOM with this framework of incident management that ITSM brings to the table. So now we have a new landscape and a new discipline that we're calling ITOSM, which is IT Operations and Service Management combined. AIOps is the glue, and Jeff here is going to take you through what that looks like in terms of how the OpsRamp perspective brings that to bear.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Jordan. So there's been a rather long journey to get to this point that we're at today, right? And when we think about the old days, which for many organizations still might be today, event management was very much unhitched from IT service management. It was separate, right? There were quite a few challenges there. I mean, it required manual rule creation in essentially a manager of managers, right? And that led to, of course, a lot of confusing false positives and noise. There was multiple point solutions required to really monitor an organization's entire tech stack. And then once we had that feed, there was really not a lot of context that existed between these events. And so what that led to is really a time when several point tools were able to come in and create what we call really first-gen AIOps, right? These would be the tools that start ingesting these various alert feeds and using algorithms to start determining correlation. Now, the challenge, of course, in this first gen is that, well, it added an additional layer of application and integration, right? In a part of the business that's collected all these tools, now we have yet another tool that we got to layer on top. These tools also really required some really heavy lifting to parse those events in the form of coding and scripting. And quite often for large enterprises, they needed tuning by specialists to see any sort of benefits. And by specialists, I mean data scientists. And so what we've done here at OpsRamp is we've said, hey, you know what, let's kind of throw out that old approach to AIOps and come up with something that's far newer and more powerful. And so what we're providing here really is full stack monitoring native on the platform. That's things like compute, networks, storage, database, virtual, containers, you name it. We're going to bring that full stack monitoring so you're not having to leverage multiple tools for that. Public, private, hybrid cloud monitoring. So we recognize that certainly we live in a time where organizations are either lift and shift or they're moving applications and services to the cloud. That's supported again on the same platform. We're bringing native AIOps to the table without requiring any external feeds to be parsed in. And I think this really for us, especially if we've got folks on the operations side and folks on the service management side in this meeting today, it's really going to enable a new level of bidirectional communication so that my operations folks and my support specialists can really kind of work in their respective interfaces without having to swivel chair between. So I think that's really important to point out. Now, how does this then tie into, to Jordan's point, ITOSM or IT service management? And here we can see, in a traditional organization, they're going to have multiple tools, right? They might be using Splunk for log file monitoring, App Dynamics for application performance monitoring. They might have several different monitoring tools to monitor the whole stack. And what we're saying is here at OpsRamp, we're going to ingest those alert feeds. We've got clear, easy to understand dashboards, and we're going to really help organizations more quickly determine if a service is up or down. Now, what happens next? Well, historically, ITOps has their own workflow. IT service has their own workflow. I think we'll all agree that there hasn't necessarily been a lot of back and forth communication between the two, right? And so we're going to really help with that, right? We can see here in OpsRamp, we're going to do that correlation to take all those events, really get them down to an alert. We can get you to a point where you can start trusting your monitoring tool to open tickets. We hear time and time again, I've spoken at many different events where people come up to me and say, yeah, we do not have our monitoring tools open tickets. Do you know what that would look like? We'd have 16,000 tickets a week. Okay, well, so correlation can really help reduce that number, right? Now, meanwhile, on the operations side, yeah, we're going to give those technicians in the NOC the ability to very quickly drill down through actionable service maps to very speedily determine root cause. On the service management side, by this point, we've moved into a change, right? And one of the things that we can do as well is that we can ingest those change implementation windows from the various different ITSM platforms so that we can suppress any alerts that take place during that change window, right? So if somebody forgets to turn off or silence the monitoring tools, we can take care of that as well. And then we can see up on the top right from the restoration standpoint, the ability to take action through scripts, remote consoles, even some machine learning AI there as well. We're driving towards services up, right? And through automation and intelligence, OpsRamp's really going to help an organization be far more efficient by tightening down this entire workflow. Just to give you an example, what does this mean for me? And then I think we're going to transition into an actual demonstration here. But we've taken one of our customers and got some numbers back from them of traditional alert correlation without OpsRamp versus OpsQ. And what we saw is that in a typical week, this organization was seeing about 43,000 raw alerts from their various monitoring tools. Once they brought in OpsRamp, we were able to reduce that by 81% down to 8,000, right? Pretty significant reduction there. Where things get interesting as we move down here is that with traditional alert correlation, right, that's that old event management approach where we're writing those rules, where we're using some of those first-gen AIOps tools. Yeah, they were able to drop that number down to 19,000. But by enabling OpsQ, which is OpsRamp's native machine learning interface, well, yeah, we were able to drop that down to 900. That's 93% reduction, right? And then what's that ultimately drive for you and I, that our email just blows up anytime something happens, or maybe we're in a service desk queue that all of a sudden gets just overloaded with incidents. We were able to reduce their incident count from 4,000 to 129. So what that means to this organization was, hey, look, when an incident finally lands in our ticketing system, we know it's something important. We know it's not just, well, this is how business as usual at our organization and all these different alerts. You know, our guys aren't writing rules to essentially file all those alerts into the recycle bin. No. These things are things that we actually need to react. And so I'm sure in the back of our minds we're thinking we've all determined what the cost of an incident is. This is a pretty significant cost reduction as well. And I'm going to kind of finish up with so what capabilities are we bringing here from a platform standpoint? Little history on OpsRamp. We actually started off as a managed service provider, and a number of years ago we spun the product off into its own company. So we're very familiar with the pains around IT service and IT operations that many, many downstream customers are feeling, because of course that's built in our nature. It's our DNA, right? We've really centered our platform around three core disciplines. That's discovery, intelligence, and optimization. So we're bringing that unified discovery for visibility across the entire enterprise. We're bringing in the business context through service mapping, topology mapping, application dependency mapping, and then presenting those in role-based dashboards. We are a policy-based monitoring platform. That's cloud monitoring as well as on-premise monitoring, right? To give us things like service availability and performance. We have synthetic transaction monitoring on the platform as well to give us that outside-in approach. And then event management's big, right? That's that smart alert correlation to reduce the noise. That's really where OpsQ started from a machine learning standpoint, was really focused there. But we have since very much branched out, where OpsQ is now playing in the policy-based monitoring. OpsQ also is now, with today's release, also starting to learn notifications and escalations so that we make sure to route things to the appropriate individuals without having to manage all those different rules that we historically have done. We're bringing email, voice, text message. We've pre-built integrations, as we mentioned, with many different tools out there. And then we're going to take you all the way up to the top of the stack, which is remediation. That's auto healing built into the platform, smart routing, remote access with audit and recording capabilities. We do have patch management built onto the platform as well. And I think it's important to point out that unlike many other quote-unquote wink-wink platforms that claim to be out there, especially in the IT operations space, we've built all this natively ourselves on the same platform. None of this is the result of any sort of repeat acquisition, which means that all of this shares the same data lakes and data stores on the back end, which means that bit by bit, we just keep turning on the OpsQ to start learning across the entire stack. I think it's super important when vendors out there talk about machine learning and AI. I think it's important to know, is your AI functioning with blinders on because it's only seeing one little sliver, or is your AI learning from the big picture, which is certainly what we're doing here. So with that, let's give you just a brief demonstration of the OpsRamp platform. And I'm going to start off here on the dashboard side of things. And again, I don't care if you're someone on the service management side, someone on the ops side, or someone who has a director or above title. Dashboards are really the modern way for us to consume information about our environment, right? And we can see here, these are full drag and drop responsive design dashboards. They're role driven as well. I hear time and time again when I walk into an organization, they say, hey, look, we bought 7 different tools to solve a problem we had with visibility. But now we still have a visibility problem. It's just across 7 tools. It's not across our entire infrastructure anymore. Well, that's still a problem. So this is a great example of a quick dashboard I put together for someone like a CIO or CTO to come in the morning and determine, hey, am I going to have a good day or a bad day, right? Things like alert trends, cloud cost spend, where am I at here year to date? You know, am I pretty compliant from a patching standpoint? What about my infrastructure availability? What about my application availability, right? And of course, all of these things are going to be drilled through as well. And you can create as many of these dashboards as you'd like. As we mentioned before, full multi-tenant capable as well. I mean, remember, we did spool off from an MSP. So while you might not be a managed service provider, we are seeing a lot of organizations go through digital transformation and really rethink the way that internal IT supports the business. And so quite often we see that and taking maybe an internal managed service provider approach. So we do fully support that here as well. And of course, being role-driven, I mean, everybody wants something different out of a platform, right? So, you know, if I'm somebody responsible for cloud costing and procurement, you know, here would be another great example with AWS where I've got that type of insight. Again, just one example. There's multiple here that we could run through. Now, if I flip over to the infrastructure side of things, I think another important thing to bring up here is that you know, we're providing unified discovery. This is still something that organizations struggle with very often, which is, you know what, I've had to bring in 5 discovery tools, one for my Linux Unix estate, one for my Windows estate, one to keep track of our storage. I've got network infrastructure discovery. We've brought in a couple tools to discover our cloud resources. And what you can see here is really on the OpsRamp platform, we're doing that discovery across compute, network, storage, virtual, cloud, containers, all of that in one place. Now, for those of you on the ITSM side, this is a great way of reducing the number of inbound tools populating your CMDB, right? If you're fighting or struggling with federation and field level prioritization and all those headaches that come in with populating a CMDB from multiple sources, having a platform here that can do that discovery across all of these can really dramatically reduce that headache. And I can drill into any of these things. If I drill into my network devices and we take a look at my switches for a second, and maybe I'm going to pick on one of these just to show you what we can get here. Yeah, I mean, I've got availability and maintenance information. I could drill down in and see interface status and health. We can see what monitors have actually been assigned to monitor this switch. We can see the metrics. And again, this is the type of stuff that maybe those of us on the service desk aren't keeping eyes on, but certainly those of us in the NOC are, right? Now, one of the common things that I hear time and time again when I go through a demonstration like this is, yeah, but you know, I can log into Cisco and get that information. Of course you can. But I'll argue that if I have all that information in one tool that my network operations team has access to, I'm going to be much quicker to restore service than having to alt-tab between 7 different tools or spool up that war room like we were talking about earlier. As you can see as well, we are tracking dependencies and relationships here. This is at the network level because we do have automated network topology mapping, but you can also see application mapping, cloud resource mapping, virtual mapping. We are really mapping out many different relationships that exist between these resources, not only in your environment, but in a cloud as well. And I think it's important to note that while it's great to be able to view these, this is also something that OpsQ is learning from. And it's learning from to start doing intelligent correlation. It's also learning from to do intelligent escalation. So really at the core of the platform here. Likewise, I could drill into a storage cluster here in NetApp, the same conversation, right? I'm monitoring this thing. If I want to look at dashboards and see this type of information at my fingertips, I want to drill down into disks and aggregates, all of it available in one place. And if I'm someone in the NOC and my storage guys do not give me rights to the NetApp console, I still can start doing root cause analysis and some of that interesting information from this view. Now that doesn't just stop there. If we keep going back, I could drill into here, in this case AWS. I have multiple accounts in AWS. That's something that, again, a lot of organizations say, oh, we're going to have one. Next thing you know, they have 100. And so we can really pull this information across multiple accounts, right? And as I drill in, same type of thing. If I want to pull up, in this case, this is going to be my cloud type of topology map. We'll give this a second to pull up here. Yeah, I can see all of this information, see those relationships, and this is a level 3. I could keep going deeper and deeper to see this information here. So again, as our applications now start spanning on-prem and cloud, I think it's really important to have that. Now I'm going to drill into a server because I think what I want to do here is illustrate what happens if something goes down. In fact, let's drill in. I've got some groupings here. And I'll pick on this server here. You can see I've got some information right there. And again, I could take a look at installed software if I wanted, what services are on this box. In fact, let's trigger an alert here. I'll find, how about this service? So again, actionable, right? Here I'm going to actually go ahead and I'm going to stop that particular service. And I can do that from the console. And I think this is important to point out too, because a lot of discovery tools will just show you things, but they don't let you interact with them. Likewise, monitoring tools might lead you to where there's an issue, but then they don't let you take action. You have to swivel over to some other console. That's not the case here on the OpsRamp platform. In fact, as we can see up top here, I could remote into this device, file transfer. I could run certain scripts against this device. There's a lot of things that I can do to take action on this type of resource. Now, what we're going to see ultimately happen here, and again, I'm going to just hop around, but this is ultimately going to go red because I've actually stopped a really important service. But while we're waiting for that to flip into the UI, I can see monitors that have been assigned here. So policy-based monitoring, very, very important, right? So I can have these policies automatically assigned. So anytime I find a new resource, we'll start monitoring that resource. We're going to help an organization eliminate blind spots that may exist in their data centers or in their cloud estate. More importantly than that is not only can I assign, all those different templates and monitors, but I have the ability to attach runbook automations to these. So a great example would be, hey, look, we're monitoring IIS on a web server. IIS stops responding. Of course, OpsRamp can open up the ticket and route it to the appropriate individual, but OpsRamp could also then attempt to restore that service. Maybe we're going to automatically restart that service using a runbook automation when that threshold is breached. So really we're bringing that auto heal capability to the platform as well. So we're going to go back here for a second. All right, and now I can see, of course, that this particular resource is in a down state. Before I jump over into the alerts, I think something else, since I know we've got some service management folks on the call here as well, is that we do also have business service mapping native here on the platform. And so that's really going to help us then understand not only the resource, but the actual business service that's being impacted when there's an outage. And so this is a great example here of a business service map. Yes, these can also be sent over to populate your CMDB of choice. But if I drill down in, I can very quickly identify where an outage is occurring. I can see the tickets that have been opened. I can see the resources that are being impacted here as well. So again, it's giving my folks in the NOC really quick ability to drill down, identify outage, drill into that resource, and start taking action. And I can't emphasize enough just how important that is. So now that we've triggered an alert, what are we going to do with that alert? So let's step over here into what essentially becomes in OpsRamp your federated enterprise alert stream. Because what I can see here is that while in my demo environment, yes, the source for all of these things are OpsRamp, but in a production environment, these three alerts might have come from Splunk. These came from App Dynamics. Maybe you still had Nagios kicking around, so some of these might have come from Nagios, and of course the rest came from OpsRamp. So we are able to really pull all of those alerts into this one federated enterprise alert feed. And I'm going to give this 1 second here to do a refresh. And then I'm going to kind of hone in on that because, we're talking about correlation. We're talking about noise reduction. What's that look like? That looks like this, right? I can pick on any one of these. Here's a great example of a network interface. There's discards. There's something going on here. Monitoring tools, notorious for repeating themselves. But also, if there's a switch port that's flapping, that's going to also trigger up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, right? And so here I can see that we've got 2,700 of these duplicates. And so the first thing that OpsRamp automatically did is that we deduped those duplicate type of alerts, right? Furthermore, we can see that there was correlation that took place. So as I step in here, while there are different resources involved, remember we have things like those network maps and topology maps and service maps and dependency maps. We've determined that basically all of these things are related. And we've done that without data scientists setting foot into this platform, right? So we've automatically correlated these. So essentially I've taken many, many alerts and I've boiled them down into really one alert in OpsRamp. So you can think about how that may impact you on a daily basis. Now, if we filter this even further, I've created a view here. This was that service that I just stopped on that server, right? And so, of course, I might get a text message, I might get a phone call, I might get an email, but I'm going to quickly, as someone in the NOC, I'm going to quickly land at this view, and I'm going to drill into that particular alert. Now again, keeping the focus on actionable. I mean, I'm in this alert now, and I can remote into this resource. I can run scripts on this resource. I can drill into this resource to do further triage to figure out what's going on, right? While I'm at this alert, not only do I have that details of this alert, but I can see the history. So is there a pattern going on with this particular server? Do we already have open tickets against this particular server, right? So there's a lot of information available to me at my fingertips when I drill in here. And one of the things that I keep hearing, especially now that we've got DevOps in play and ITOps, is that those guys don't necessarily love IT service management. To them, they feel like, oh, look, we're agile now. That just slows us down. Why do I have to swivel over to ServiceNow or Remedy or Ivanti and open a ticket there when something happens? I want to stay in my tool, and I want to work to restore that service before the SLA is up. So let's give them the ability to do that, right? I can drill right into this incident here. And so the first thing I might do is, from a conversation standpoint, I might say, hey, guys and gals, we see this in the NOC and are on it. Keep you up to date, right? So like that, I'm going to go ahead and submit this here as open. So awesome. I've now created this conversation thread. Now for me in the NOC, I can start looking at, okay, what resources are impacted here? You know what? I got to go ahead here, and we need to add some to-do items. Maybe check the proxy. Maybe I'm going to check the network connectivity as well. Right? So I'm still working in my tool of choice. Right? Awesome. Meanwhile, if we head over to ServiceNow here, I'm going to do a quick refresh. And again, this is ServiceNow, guys. We've pre-built integrations to just about every popular ITSM tool. So we are no means attached at the hip to just one of them. Here we can see that OpsRamp automatically opened that incident. And if I drill in, awesome, right? Here's that conversation. Hey, guys and gals, we see it. I'm going to keep you up to date. We can see also that this is now in progress versus new. So we are transferring that type of information back and forth. Maybe the folks in the service desk say something like, great. That kind of goes back. Obviously, there's a web service here. This is going to take a couple seconds to make it back into my conversation. Notice here it is already. So full bidirectional at the API level. So not only are we populating the CMDB, but we are also certainly providing this back and forth, right? So now I might say something like, awesome, I'm going to go ahead and we're just going to say this is going to be on hold because we're now waiting for the vendor. And we're going to, if we again head back into the ServiceNow interface, and we wait for that to basically push over here, that's going to push into an on-hold state. So again, I can't emphasize enough how awesome that is to be able to have each of us work in our own tools without swivel chair, right? Now, finally, we might get to the point where we say, great, you know what? Solved the issue. We restarted that service. I'm going to go ahead and mark that as resolved. Obviously, that's going to go ahead and resolve the ticket out on the ServiceNow side. If my manager in the NOC still wants to keep tabs on what's going on here, they have that visual timeline, so to speak. So it's tremendously powerful to have that level of integration. And for those of you on the phone who are ServiceNow, we just a couple weeks ago announced, and ServiceNow has certified us, we are now available here on their store. This out-of-the-box integration, we've already had quite a few customers pull it down. It takes almost no time to basically spool this thing up. It brings together the CMDB population, the bidirectional that I just showed you. It also brings change alert suppression as well as part of this particular integration. So awesome to have that here built on the platform. All right, so let's talk just a little bit more here, and then we'll just save the last 5 minutes for any questions. Again, a lot of questions typically come up when we show this type of workflow. So what do the integrations look like, right? Again, remember that we started off as an MSP, which means that one of the big things that was important to us back in those days was just rapid onboarding of downstream customers. So it really made sense for us to have as many of these pre-built integrations as possible. So you can see I've got ServiceNow, I've got an integration of my instance here to Sharewell, SolarWinds. Down below, multiple collaboration tools, multiple monitoring tools are available for me to hitch up with. If I look at public cloud, very easy to onboard those cloud instances. Storage, we've got you covered with all the major vendors, network likewise, and it goes on and on and on, right? So there's quite a few here. We're also extremely transparent about what we're working on and what's coming, so we can see working on things like Ansible, HP Service Manager, even Salesforce Desk as well. So just constantly bolstering these integrations. And then the final piece that I'll bring up here as well is that we do have the full then orchestration built on our platform. That tends to also be a place where some of this communication does break down, right? So I have the ability to have things like recurring maintenance jobs on the platform. Here I've got it set so that every time I find a piece of Cisco equipment, I automatically set it up to back up its network configuration on a nightly basis. Killer, right? I have my full script repository here, and you already saw that I could assign those to take place when there's a breach of threshold, but also these are available in the UI for the technicians to leverage. We're going to get the full audit trail on that as well. And hint, hint, as we continue to broaden OpsQ, I see the day coming where the machine learning has said, hey, you know what, every time this happens, well, our technicians are running these particular scripts. So do you want us to take it from here on forward? Do you want us to run that script? I mean, that we really want to drive towards machines managing machines, so to speak. I realize this was very much a whistle-stop tour, so to speak, of the OpsRamp platform. We can certainly schedule follow-up demonstrations through the folks at Flycast and go significantly deeper. But I want to leave here 5 minutes remaining to make sure that there aren't any questions. Jordan, I think you've been keeping tabs on said questions.
That's absolutely right, Jeff. This has been really great, very eye-opening, a great demonstration of AIOps and ultimately ITOSM. Did get a couple of questions from the gallery. Please feel free, as we're answering these questions, to submit additional ones if something comes up. The first question, though, I think people want a little bit deeper dive into the templates, the monitoring templates. Show how those are set up and what's on offer, what is available to a user.
It's a great question because, of course, in a lot of these legacy tools, that can be a real big burden during implementation, right, is setting up all the different things you need to monitor. So, if I step in here under monitor management, we have many, many, many pre-built templates on the platform. So I'll pick on, let's say I've got some Citrix in my environment, right? We can see I've got 10 pre-built templates on Citrix. If I expand these things out, you guys can kind of see what these are. And then as I step into each one of these, we can see we are providing then essentially the best practice thresholds, for each of those templates. Now, notice I have the ability to create or copy or duplicate or remove. So, you can really expand these templates way beyond what we're providing in the core platform. But I think it's also important to know that, if I'm looking for quick time to value and I know what I have in my environment at the high level, I can turn those templates on. And I think it's also important to talk about the fact that, assigning those templates is done through device management policies. So again, I can say, hey, look, I found a new vCenter device, new vCenter resource, right? OpsRamp swoops in and says, hey, you know what? I'm going to automatically assign the maintenance window. I'm going to automatically assign several knowledge base articles around that particular resource type. And based on the type of resource, we'll also automatically assign and start monitoring with some of these templates that we've pre-built on the platform.
That's great. Tons of templates on that list. Okay, so next question. We want someone out there wants a deeper dive into the available dashboards. You mentioned that dashboards are kind of the currency by which we trade information. Are there other dashboards that we may have teed up that we could demonstrate?
Yes, sure. Let me give me back here for a second. Take a look at the dashboard view. So again, dashboards very much at a tenant by tenant or business unit by business unit level. That was just one example. But if I wanted something like here, Postgres database performance, got a quick dashboard put together for that, right? If I'm looking for things like response time on a URL, so this is a synthetic transaction that I'm watching, right? So a great example, maybe you're using Workday now for your HR, if that stuff's in the cloud. You want to get notified before your HR folks pick up the phone and let you know they can't reach Workday, right? Great use case as we move things outside the four walls of our data centers to start keeping track of those things. There's many different dashboards available. If I head back here, I made another one here for enterprise IT patch compliance. So again, my patch folks could certainly have a window into that. But as you can see, I have many different widgets that are available to me. So if I wanted site availability, it's really as simple as going through and starting to set these things up.
That's great. Yeah, it's kind of bottomless, depending on the role within the organization and the information that they are looking to get.
Absolutely.
Well, it looks like we had one or two additional questions. I did want to pitch it back to Rich, though, because it looks like we're getting close to time. I also want to let everybody know that if you have questions, burning questions that you haven't gotten answered today, please feel free to reach out to the good folks at Flycast about the OpsRamp platform. We are always available to answer these additional questions. Jeff has been terrific, and he can certainly provide a custom demonstration based on need and availability. So, Rich, if you want to take it back.
Absolutely. I want to thank Jeff and Jordan. Thank you so much for helping us out, putting this on today. Very interesting. I got a chance to see some things that I hadn't seen yet in this tool, and I learned a couple things, and I hope the audience has as well. Folks, I encourage you, if you have questions, to reach out to us at 844-FLYCAST. That's 844-359-2278. Email us at info@flycastpartners.com. We'll be happy to answer you right back and take any questions that you have. If you would like a copy of the recording, definitely email me at rich.longo@flycastpartners.com, and I'll make sure as soon as we get this recording done, I'll make sure you get a copy of it. And with that being said, thanks again, folks, for taking time out of your busy day to join us. Thanks, Jordan and Denny and Jeff and Bobby, for all taking time out of your busy day to present for us. And until next webinar, have a great day.